This is one of the most inspiring environmental victories that I've certainly ever experienced in my decades as an activist. After fighting it for 10 years and multiple revivals and rejections from various presidents, just yesterday, the company behind the project announced that it is officially dead. It is actually over. The oil that the Keystone XL Pipeline would have been carrying is the dirtiest source of oil on the planet. It's actually not even oil. It is a tar-like substance. That's why we call it tar sands. It's almost a solid that it requires a lot of processing to turn it into a liquid fuel that can be used as oil. And that means that it requires huge amounts of energy, making this the highest carbon source of oil on the planet. So this is the dirtiest source of oil in existence. And not only that, but all of the water that is used for processing that sludge to turn it into oil is then dumped into these massive tailings ponds, which threaten the water in Canada. They threaten the indigenous communities that live by those water bodies and rely on them for their drinking water. They threaten wildlife. Birds fly up and land on those tailings ponds and die in massive numbers. Every environmental problem that you could imagine is associated with tar sands oil. And then once you get it into these massive pipelines, after all of that high energy intensive mining and processing, the pipeline itself would pose massive threats for all of the water bodies under which it would cross. Science has made it extremely clear that we don't have any more room in our global carbon budget for new fossil fuel projects. And even adding just one more leg to this network of tar sands pipelines would have increased the capacity of that network. It would have extended the long-term demand, essentially, for that oil. And it would have perpetuated more and more construction of those big mines in Canada and a reliance on this incredibly high carbon source of fuel. We can't afford to build any more fossil fuel pipelines, particularly those that would be carrying the highest carbon source of fuel on the planet, the dirtiest source of oil. There's just no room. And that was an incredible day. I think that this is a really encouraging sign for climate activists in the United States and around the world who are looking to President Biden for leadership on climate, on environmental justice. And the fact that he was willing to say no to this project, again, one that 10 years ago everyone said was a done deal, is a really encouraging sign. Right now, thousands of water protectors have converged on Minnesota, asking President Biden to apply the same framework to Enbridge's Line 3 tar sands pipeline. Very similar situation. I definitely understand that the United States has a lot of work to do to move away from a governing system that is really, really deferential to big industry, and particularly deferential to the fossil fuel industry. And we need to start breaking those ties. The fossil fuel industry cannot be setting our policy. They cannot be guiding which projects get approved and which don't, because we've seen where that leads us. It leads us to climate disaster. It leads us to environmental racism and continued pollution in communities that cannot bear any further burdens. And I am really impressed with what the Biden administration has done so far. He has demonstrated incredible leadership and has made really, really bold commitments. I really want to give credit to the Indigenous leaders in Canada and in the United States who led this fight and who raised the alarm bell at the very beginning about the tar sands. And that was really the heart of the fight at the beginning and really was all the way through the past decade. And I think it is a really shining example of how powerful we can be and how we can win when diverse communities come together and stand strong in unison. So we follow the leadership of the Indigenous leaders who started this fight. That's how we win.